The event is set to last 1 hour. You should be able to see the agenda now. And if you have any questions, please use the chat function. If the question is specific to one speaker, please remember to mention their name. We have invited 2 of our members, Nikolaj Henriksen from HiRasmus and Jon Friis, who's the CEO of MiiSkin, to share their experiences with Global First. But first, we will have our co-founder, Valentin Bejan, from Health Tech Hub Copenhagen, who will give you a short introduction to Global First.
All right, thank you, Denise. And I think we still have a few people coming in, but gladly this is recorded. So, why is Global First important? Well, from a general perspective, it's important from 2 points of view. One is that starting with this view and mindset is a proof, allows you to have a proof of high impact need, and making sure that the problem that you're trying to solve is not very uniquely niche and specific for the area that you're living in. And we firmly believe that the majority of needs that should be prioritized right now and solutions that should be built should focus on needs that are present in every health system. Because looking as much as we focus on differences, and in the past few years we have focused on that a lot, when it comes to healthcare, and when it comes to health, we have a lot more similarities, and our systems have a lot more similarities than we sometimes like to admit. And the second reason for this is that the moment that you start with this mindset, it allows you to build solutions that are transferable. That means that it gives, especially when it comes to young company, it allows you to build up a degree of adaptability that will increase your chances for success, and it increases our chances as potential customers of these solutions to actually make use of them. Now, why is Global First important to us as Health Tech Hub Copenhagen? Well, there's a selfish reason for this. And that is that when we started a bit over a year and a half ago, almost 2 years ago, we decided that we want to help these great health tech solutions reach 1 billion people. And just to put it in perspective, how much is 1 billion people? Well, if you would ask 1 billion people to sit next to each other in a row, you would probably wonder, why am I doing this? That's a lot of people, and it's pretty silly to waste their time. Because they should be doing something else. It's that many people, and looking at what we're trying to do here, and why we invited HiRasmus and MiiSkin to tell their stories here. That we try to reach this amount of people by supporting some of the most inspiring startups and people that we've ever worked with. And in their journey, we sometimes suggest which roads they should be taking. Other times we try to open a gate. We sometimes pay for gas or pay a toll ourselves. And other times we're just there to counsel when the driver wants to go right and the co-driver wants to go straight. Now, despite all of this, and despite what we're trying to do, we're still just passengers, and we're extremely grateful that these good men and women here allow us to be part of their journeys. So without having any more delay, I'm going to pass the mic now to Nikolaj. I'm very excited for him to share his journey which is one that is also very, very close to my heart.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, Valentin, and thanks for all the support. I'm just going to share my screen, my presentation. So 2 seconds. So is it all there? Yes, great. Okay, so just to tell you a bit about myself to start with. So I am Nikolai Hendriksen. When I was 10 years old, I wrote my first line of code. I'm a pretty technical guy. I'm a pretty product-oriented guy. When I was 20, I was the co-founder of a quite well-known fintech called MiiSkin that I spent actually the next 20 years building, and both as a CTO, but ending up as a CEO before I joined the board where I'm at now. When I was 30, I had my son Rasmus. He was born at about 10 years ago. And he, when he was a few years old, we knew that he was diagnosed with autism, and we got to know about that when he was about 2 or 3 years old. Actually, quite early for these things. I'm gonna get a bit back into that. Because he was the reason that I founded HiRasmus when I left the daily management of MiiSkin a few years ago, simply to look at some of these issues, and I'm gonna go a bit into that now. So basically, what is autism? A few facts about autism. It can put a child into a lifelong state of loneliness and dependency of others, especially when left untreated. It's a quite severe diagnosis for many kids. Effective treatment is available, but it's expensive, and it's unavailable for many people in many geographic areas, and quality is very, very different from one region to another. And cost of treatment, when you measure it on a global scale and even on a national scale, we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars. And consequences for our world economy is counted in the trillions. It has a very, very big impact on our society. The number of, or the prevalence rate of autism is actually increasing, not thereby saying that autism is on the increase in itself. It might as well be the diagnosis that are on the increase, and that we find more children with autism, so to speak. But currently, in the US, 1 out of 59 children has an autism diagnosis. We see more or less the same numbers in Denmark, and actually more or less everywhere that it's been looked at. It's very similar. About a third of those with autism are nonverbal, especially if left untreated. And one of the big problems with this is that a lot of families, they report significant difficulties and delays of treatment simply due to lack of available services. My own family, we had to travel back and forth to the US, so we worked with Yale Child Study Center in New Haven and University of California for the treatment of our own son out of our own pockets. So that was both extremely expensive, but also very impractical in terms of getting the highest quality therapy that we could get for him. In the US alone, we're talking about 100,000 children, and when we translate that into a global scale, it's about 1 million children around the world. And then we haven't even talked about the adults, which is same prevalence. So what is our aim? We at HiRasmus want to remove and reduce the geographical and financial barriers for autism therapy, namely to bring behavioral analysts, those are the people who actually work with children with autism, and to bring their supervision online, and thereby allow them to deliver that treatment to children everywhere. So we basically want to be the world's first evidence-based behavioral remote treatment platform dedicated to autism. And the little map you can see down in the corner, that's actually a bit of our usage statistics. So not covering so much of Africa, but we actually reach more or less all around the world with the people that we work with and interact with. So let me get into a bit about why going global. One of the first things that Valentin also mentioned was that you need to make sure that you're actually targeting a global problem. So if you're looking at the world and you're looking at a problem that might be very limited in geography or anything like that, then probably no reason to go global. So that was one of the first things that we could see with HiRasmus. That was that no matter where we looked, the access to therapy was limited, and especially to the latest like evidence-based therapies. The next thing, of course, is your solution universal? Does your solution actually, does your product, does your service actually provide a solution to the global problem, or is it again more regional? You got to look at whether markets are emerging or whether markets are kind of if there's already a developed market for a marketplace for your services. Of course, it's all about timing. Don't go too early, don't go too late. But generally, if you're looking at global first, you don't want to be in a situation where there's tough competition on a lot of different markets, unless you can actually provide something that's very specific to the global landscape. One more reason that I want to mention is that if you don't start with the global first mindset, you might never get there. I've seen so many startups. I've also worked as an advisor for in relation to venture cap, and I've seen so many startups and followed so many startups that had a global vision but started in one place, started on a national level, and then build a business around that and wanted to scale that. But they never really get there. They might add another country, 2 other countries, but they don't really get to the global scale. So that was one of the things that I was very, very careful about when I started HiRasmus. That was that I wanted to make sure that I was thinking global from the first step, and that my team was thinking global. That we were, in all senses of what we were doing, because I was afraid that if we didn't, then we might not get there. So, of course, there's also why not global. So as a business, you have to look at the benefits to scale, of course, and benefits to scale in terms of global. Do you actually benefit from them from scaling global, or are the markets so different that you have to put a lot of energy into each and every market individually, which would make it more difficult to scale globally or with a global first mindset than not? And again, back to your solution, is it really universal? I just repeated that because that is quite important for this. So the global first mindset, what is it? So what it isn't, it's not global only, and I think that's very important. We don't. We have key markets with HiRasmus already, and we have markets where we are very present, and where we have a lot of focus on. But we also have markets where we don't have a lot of focus on, and that we're not going to have a lot of focus on for some time. So it doesn't mean to be everywhere all the time. It's about thinking global before you think local, and I think that's an important thing to differentiate about. So what we do is we distribute our sales and marketing energy across all markets, and then we look at the reactions, and then we focus on the places that has most traction. So when we get traction on the market, and we get kind of like word of mouth effects and so on, then we benefit from that, and then we dig a bit more into that market. We're still an early stage company, so this is still things that are going on, but it's something that we can already see that's happening. Some of the markets that were kind of popping up early and reacting early to our solution and products are developing quite quickly. Yeah. And then what we look for is we are looking for the common denominator across the markets. So when we get feedback from our customers and clients, parents that work on our platform and so on, we always look at the common denominator for that feedback across markets. So we don't want, unless we have very specific reasons to that, and I'll get back to that, we don't want to spend a lot of energy doing stuff for a very specific market. So we try to find the common denominator, and we try to build our product that way, and put more and more focus into the problems that are actually global, or the solution to the problem that's actually global. Again, it's okay to have increased focus on your key markets, and you should definitely be ready to differentiate. For example, the US is a very important market for us in terms of autism, because for behavioral therapy and these things that we support, it's all 50 states has insurance coverage for that. That means that there's funding on that side. We have key European markets. Actually, Denmark is there is funding. It's not as perfect, but there is funding in Denmark, for example, in some places in Germany, some places in the UK, and so on. So there are markets where they are a bit more ready to have a solution that's paid for, of course, and the commercial solution to a problem. So of course we have to do things that are very specific to those markets, and thereby also differentiate ourselves a bit into those markets. So we have, of course, everything we do that has to do with insurance billing in the US to do. We can't really use that anywhere else, but we can't compete in the US if we don't do those things. So again, we're differentiating a bit from one market to another, but still starting from the top, starting from the overlook. So the hows of this, how do we build this, and how do we start global? Of course, we work with global platforms. It's actually quite simple these days. We use LinkedIn for our sales. For our sales team, we use Google AdWords, Facebook, advertising. We use those platforms in terms of sales and marketing that provide those things. We use services like Stripe for payment processing. They have specific ways of processing payments in the Netherlands. For example, when we have specific ways of paying there, they have we can do VAT, differentiate VAT and US tax and so on that platform, because it's built for global businesses. So of course we want to use other platforms that are built for global. We use Zoom a lot. I mean, it's all we use. Before the pandemic, I actually flew quite a bit to the US, talking to different universities and potential key partners and so on. But it's now everything is on Zoom, and fortunately for us, the world has changed into a situation where we can access everybody on Zoom, yeah, so we use that a lot. Our cloud platform for our infrastructure and so on, we're using Google Cloud Platform, but AWS, Azure as well. They are also important for us, especially when we'll get back to that a bit. When we're talking regulation, we need data storage locally in some markets, so we need to have platforms that support that, and we have to be aware of that from the very beginning. And then one other important thing about the how is that the Earth is not flat. So you gotta sleep when there are no meetings. We start in the morning with Australia, then we are in the Middle East during the day, then we're in Europe during the day as well. In the afternoon, the UK, then we start with the East Coast and US in the early evening, and then we end up on the West Coast with our California meetings quite late night. And that's just the way it is, and that's just the way it is to be a startup. You gotta have the time, you gotta find the time, and it takes a lot of toll on the family. So be with them whenever there is time for that, of course. But But generally, it is a thing when we are organizing events. For example, we have to organize it live events. We have to organize it at a time where we cover as much of the globe as possible. One more thing, this goes, that was the same in my Bangor actually, but automate everything. So everything that we can do that makes things happen while we're sleeping are good things. So and helps us operating on a global scale. So so we spend a lot of energy on automating services, marketing flows, and everything like that. So we give a very good experience and an experience to our customers as if we were closer than we actually are. One more thing I didn't put here is that we've built our team, and we are building our team globally as well. So we have people in the US and Denmark, in Ukraine, and in the Middle East. Probably also at some time in the not too far future have somebody in Australia or in Asia, and generally, when you're a startup, people can overlap each other. So just if it's support things, somebody who's close by can often respond, even though it's not the usual role. So we take great advantage of that. So global partnerships, that's another thing. We work, for example, the US is an important market for us, but a lot of the US superstars are actually superstars globally in our business. So we've reached out to them, and they've responded very positive on our global outlook and our global first strategy. And that means that we're now working with some of these US superstars that we would probably actually have difficulty reaching if we were operating only within the US. But since we provide them a platform to get outside the US and to operate globally with their offerings and their research, disseminate their research throughout the world, then they've signed up for partnerships with us. That's yeah, we're really happy about that and proud about that. That's super cool. Language is of course another thing. It's not such a big thing in our business when it comes to the practitioners, because they are generally working. They're generally all educated in English at some point at least, with a few exceptions on some of the larger European markets like Germany and France. But except for that, it's actually quite a big English-speaking community, and that's of course very good for us. It's also nice that people are quite used to services in English. We do, however, we decided very early on to translate our services and our app to basically any language, because we have parents that are using the app as well. So we work with clinics and help them work together with and practitioners and have them work together with the parents. And we had in some markets it was a problem for the parents to operate on an English platform, and it didn't feel safe when they were operating with their children's data. So on that we decided to Google Translate into any language. That's more than 100 right now. Quality is actually quite good these days. But what we then do is that we have ambassadors on key markets, really, really nice people that helps us fine-tune the translations, just give us feedback when there is minor things in their local language that's not really perfect. So we've been very happy to receive that feedback and thereby get our platform out there in more than 100 languages. We do the same when we have meetings with people on new markets. We will hire somebody to translate and ensure that translations for that specific market is quite good. And then we track everything with Google Analytics, so we can be ahead of time and see if we start increasing some languages, then we can put some energy into doing proper translations on that. So on the regular side, for us, we're working in health tech. That's really, really tough, but not impossible. We're working with GDPR in the EU. We're working HIPAA in the US, probably some medical device regulation at some point and so on. But the good thing is GDPR and HIPAA actually covers most of regulation globally. So we're quite observant on that. We're very careful about our tech stack. As I mentioned, some markets we have to have our tech. We have to have storage within the local country or market. So we have to make sure that our platform can handle that. Same thing, tax, VAT. I'm not going to go there. It's you just need some really good advisors and some really good people to help with that. But again, there are platforms out there. There are platforms like Paddle. Stripe does some things for us, but there are other platforms that will help take care of all tax, VAT, and everything at a cost, of course. So it's out there. And in the end, it pays off. That I hope so. At least we are at least reaching so many children out there as end users that we had never ever been able to reach with a more national or local focus. We're also receiving so much credit from people in smaller markets that are not used to technology providers looking at their markets. So they're really helpful, both in terms of helping us word of mouth, bringing forward the message, and translations and everything. And you'll find niches and gaps in markets that you did not expect, and hopefully also grow faster and get a stronger position on a global scale. And one thing that's for sure is that it's going to help your evaluation if you're successful with this anyway, and of course also access to investors, because investors might look on their local markets, but if you're already present there, then you're actually targeting a lot of investors globally. So that was kind of our experiences so far, and together with the Health Tech Hub Copenhagen, and really proud of.
Yeah. Okay, thanks a lot, Nikolai. And it got the video got stuck exactly when you were complimenting and you were saying that you're really proud of something, but now we'll let the imagination flow. Thanks a lot. There's I got myself as there's already a couple of questions there, but before we get there, I'm going to pass on the mic to Jon.
Yes, thank you very much. I'll see if you can hear me clear. Good. I'll see if I can share the screen here. So I'll have a short introduction of what MiiSkin is. We are on a mission on ending skin cancer mortality by 2040. The global challenge we are facing here is that 1 in 5 people will develop skin cancer during their life. And I started and founded this company of personal reason because I'm living with together with my partner. She is in the high risk of developing skin cancer, has already had 12 moles removed, and she has to be observant and look into her skin all the time, because the doctor is good at diagnosing and removing and treating skin cancer, but they will probably not notice the change that's happening on your skin. And that was the basis and the foundation of MiiSkin. So the most important thing you can do to reduce the risk of dying from skin cancer is actually identifying these changes in the skin early. And that is not trivial, even though it's recommended by most dermatologists and most cancer organizations all over the world. And 98% of all incidents survive melanoma if they are caught early. And this was the fundamental of the foundation of the company. And now MiiSkin is a digital health platform that assists people with sophisticated technology to monitor the skin and in order to identify changes in the skin. And that comes with a set of different smart technology, smart features. There's a whole range of them. The basics of the technology is an app platform that you can download and start using by taking the images over time. But this is another feature we call skin mapping, which is a patient-facing technology that combines machine learning and computer vision to assist the patient with identifying new moles, because 70 to 80% of all melanoma cases, which is the most dangerous form of skin cancer, is not associated with an existing mole, but appears as a new mark on the skin. So you need support basically to be able to identify what has happened on your skin and how to identify new lesions, new marks coming up on your skin. We do not do any diagnostics on the platform. We do not do any diagnosis, but support and assist people with identifying changes. That is central to us. We also realized that one of the hardest and the barriers in the market for this was that taking images in a private single user context was not trivial either. So we had another smart feature we call automatic skin imaging, where you basically taking the phone and placing it on the table and activate the automatic skin imaging, and it will scan the surroundings, the person in front of them, and the posture of the person, and hence take the images for you in an automated process, which just takes 30 seconds, and then you have the images. Because many came back to us saying that skin mapping was really nice, but it was quite difficult to take the images in a single user private context, which was really important. So what we use, users and data as an input, and the technology is actually to activate, engage with the patients and people of concern with a better way to structure the information, take images and look at the images so they can go in time to the doctor if anything has been changing. So just saying, so you know how the business model is, we have a B2C subscription model, $25 a year in a subscription, and we combine that with a MiiSkin Pro solution that we sell to institutions and clinics, and primarily we're focused on the US now and improving medical decision making with patient images. And we are HIPAA verified, and we've been through an FDA classification process. Just very quickly before I will switch to you, Valentin, about where we are in the market, so to speak. We have approximately 600,000 downloads globally, and we are the only technology that's been dermatologically endorsed by organization in the UK, and it's relevant that we work with these stakeholders globally. We are probably the most trusted and recommended technology in the world, and has been clinically validated by the NHS and approved by NHS in the UK, and is part of their app store now. We also have a partnership with IQVIA and EMIS Health, which is the largest GP platform or doctor platform in the UK. And 58% of all GPs in the UK can actually prescribe MiiSkin directly to the patient from within their EHR system today. We have more than 160 hospitals and clinics worldwide that recommend our app to the patients to be used in between clinical consultation, so that the patient gets more objective information to base their decisions on, but at the same time also can come back and discuss elements they have found on the skin with their doctor. And also this about going global first, it does not really make any difference for us if we get an article in Børsen or so forth. You need to think global and reach out to the news medias that also kind of sets the standard on a global market. That can be Forbes or CGTN or USA Today and something like that. So you have to think global and think big from day one in order to reach that. And we've been quite successful in doing that to build up our market. So this was very short brief about and as I told you in the beginning, the whole thing started by a very personal frustrating for me about how to monitor your skin in between your visits to the doctor. So have you taken over the screen? I will stop sharing. Yeah. Back to you, Valentin.
Yes, thanks a lot, Jan, and very interesting presentations from both Jan and Nikolai. And we received a couple of questions as well before the event. Now the workshop that we're having now. So we're going to go a bit organically. I'm going to ask Jon a couple of questions and going to go organically into the discussion also with Nikolai. And as we spoke before, please feel free to intervene because you have a lot of interesting input to share. I wanted to ask you, Jon, what is how did that affect the level of one of the fears, whether they're conscious or unconscious, when a startup is starting to focus on their own market versus a global market, is the other level of complexity. It's the own market is familiar, you know where the roads go, you know who to speak to, and so on. What was the added? How did your decision affect the level of complexity in terms of your marketing, your strategy to acquire customers, but also in terms of product development?
I think that was at least our thought process in the beginning. Was you think of that and you have to think global with everything, so to speak. And the first thing you should put away is all the fright and all the scary stuff that is in front of you, because it's not helping. But I think it's really important that you take that kind of culture and build up a culture that is thinking globally from day one. Basically saying that all your term sheets, all your shareholder agreements, everything should be done in English from the beginning, because you most likely you will further down the line you will attract investors from your bigger markets, and then everything should be prepared for that. So setting the corporate language in your company to English from day one, hiring people from different countries. We have from Poland, we have from Serbia, we have a person in the UK, we have a team in the US. So you have to think of everything in a global context. But then when you start doing marketing, I think what it's brilliant about at least these digital technologies is that the market is also open for you worldwide. So you have opportunities. And for us, it was basically looking at the problem, looking at 1 in 5 people with developed skin cancer during life. Then you could pretty easily calculate how many people that was in Denmark, and then you can calculate how many that is in the US and the UK. And then you can see how the traction would do that, how many searching for that. And you can see, of course, these changes to kind of consumerize the digital health is driven by some of the larger markets. And I also knew that if I only focused on Denmark, we would be a small case in a small country. And with the scalable technology, you have an opportunity to become a big case on a global market. But that also changed the whole culture in the company.
Thanks. Yeah. And it's going to be really exciting to share these lessons with everyone else that is starting the journey. I have one more question for Jon, and then we'll throw some questions at both of you. It's from this question. Can you expand on the journey to being prescribable in the UK? How did you get to be approved on the ORCA list and be able to get to get the stamp approval from the NHS?
It's I think I think one investor told me once that building up a company is basically a journey of building up trust. And you start small and you build up trust with you. First, you get a few customers in, you get a few users to use the technology, you build up trust. You have a user story, you have a patient story. Suddenly you have a little bit of traction. And for us, it is also about doing something smart, I think, in terms of how do you want to address a market? How do you, but also saying how do you want to capture a market? And we strongly believe that no digital health or health company on a global level could not move anywhere over time without being on par or at least supported by the authorities in the countries. So we started our journey, for example, in the UK by approaching British Skin Foundation.
basically, British Skin Foundation, a big concern of there is the increased incidence of skin cancer in UK. So we came with this new technology, and we approached them and asked if we could do some marketing together. They could look into this and how that would, and they was like, that was an excellent idea for them, because at the end of the day, we knew that in that process, they also do a due diligence. And we also know behind British Skin Foundation is the sister organization, the British Association of Dermatologists, which is the most credible authority in the healthcare space. So as soon as we opened the door with them, started working with them, then our network got stronger, then our credibility got stronger. The communication we came out together was just so much stronger. We were tapping into a healthcare system instead of just doing social media ads and spending our money on that. So taking into that and loop of the authority and credibility stakeholders of the country, I believe is extremely important, especially for healthcare companies. And then one thing led to the other, and suddenly we see that basically NHS is more or less open to all health businesses, but of course they have a long due diligence, long process, and long things. And we started to find out people and consultants that could work with us and knew what this was about and can show us how we should build our solution with respect to privacy, with respect to ethic communication, and all these things, so that at the end of the day we could be approved by them. So, but I think in healthcare space, as Nikolai also showed, building trust, having the right healthcare stakers on board on your journey is extremely important. And for us, where skin cancer and the majority of patient consumers in this area comes out of English-speaking market, and that's what's a market opportunity. Of course, we need to align our roadmap with the British Skin Foundation. We also now is working with the US Skin Cancer Foundation, which is probably the largest authority in the world. And that kind of spreading down through the chains of dermatology in that world. And that's, so work with the authorities in healthcare. That is key.
Thanks. Great. Now a question that is for both of you, but I'm going to kindly ask Nikolai to answer first. Can you estimate, based on previous experience, how much more effort it was required for you to act global first compared to building and targeting one geographic market? And I'm asking Nikolai because you're at your first, because you're at your second, company, and you have a very good benchmark there.
So it's going from 8 hours to 24 hours per day, I think. So no, that's honestly, I think it's a bit difficult to answer, because I'm utilizing a lot of the knowledge from my first startup, as I have a really good toolbox with me. I have some, but having said that, I would say it looks from the outside a lot more tough than it is. So if you can say that, I don't know if you can say that. I mean, it's hard work, but it's any startup is hard work. I mean, any startup will live on the edge of survival for a long period. And it's pretty much the same. I think it all ends up in prioritization, and you prioritize your global effort rather than the local effort. It's not from that standpoint. It's not that different. The thing that's really different is that you have to, except for the time zone stuff, but the other thing is that you have to you have to understand each of the markets, so to speak, that you operate on. In a normally you would get a really deep understanding. From my bank, for example, we got a really deep understanding of the financial market and the consumer finance sector in Denmark. and really dug down deep into that. And you have to keep it at a higher level when you're operating global first. There's no way that you can at least not from a founder or a CEO perspective, can dive as deep into like a single market as you can on a local scale. But honestly, on an effort, it's just working until you fall to sleep. But that's the same thing for any startup. So.
I don't know if I should add something here.
Yes,
yeah,
please do.
I think I agree with Nikolai, but I also say that I think the corporate culture, it's strange to call it corporate when you're a startup, but the culture you have in the company is good to have a global mindset, and that is about always speaking English, writing everything in English, and all that stuff. So you just gets the whole company, because that is important when you are 5 years down the line and investors and all that stuff looks at it. An enterprise company starts looking at you. That is extremely important. But that is just start doing that from day one. That is basically rule number one. Start being that, communicate in English from day one. On the other side, I want to add to Nikolai saying that you shouldn't think of it as a lot more complex. I would actually say that for some elements, there are actually it's a lot of easier in some ways, because for me, at least, if I've been selling I've been entrepreneur several times with all other startups, and I actually found it quite hard to be a small local Danish company trying to approach big Danish companies, because I was just a small company sitting out in Østerbro. That was basically it. But when you reach out to US stakeholders, you're this company from Denmark. That's really brilliant. What a brilliant company. They don't know we're a small company sitting out in Østerbro. We are coming from Denmark. Really, really cool. We are invited in to the CEO, blah, 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 to have a talk. That's amazing. So I think you get a lot of positive out of it, basically, because when you approach these as a serious stakeholder into a new market, a big market, you also see a lot of open doors that I actually found, I believe, would be more difficult. But I actually find them to almost be more open-minded coming from another. At least if you have a valid proposition you can present to them, they take it very seriously. And you can get excellent support with that also from the Danish Foreign Ministry, which is excellent at supporting you in that task. So I think you gain a little bit of credibility of being global first, because everybody in the global space seems to be a little bit larger than they actually are. But if it's a small company in Denmark and you're trying to approach top Denmark, they will just say, "Oh, you're sitting out in that small scrumpy area out in Østerbro." Who said, "Oh," so it becomes so local, so to speak. Yeah.
Thanks a lot, John. Yeah. I think we have time maybe for one more question. We have quite a lot more questions. I'm going to pick one more, and that is, as your solutions have become global, are there any country markets that have surprised you in terms of demand, traction, or willingness to adopt health tech? I'm looking now at Nikolai and then passing to Jan.
Yeah. From our perspective, so we started having a lot of traction in the UK, but that was not so surprising actually. What was surprising was that we got a lot of traction in Holland quite early, and I don't know if that has something to do with you, Valentin, but no, just joking. It's that was the willingness to work with new technology and to interact with us as especially at that time when we started approaching some of the quite large operators in Holland that we're working with now was really good, and that was actually a bit surprising, but I know from other startups that Holland is a very special market in many ways, but that was the most surprising for me, I would say.
Yeah, I can add a little bit to that, and I don't know if we had that many surprises, because basically for the challenge that we are supporting users with, you combining the amount of sun and the combination of light skin, and then you can see where you have the challenges in the world. And at the same time, I think one thing that we very quickly became aware of is two things: the consumer's willingness to pay, and I would say that is a magnitude higher in the US than anywhere else in the world. Basically, because of culture, we have a culture in Europe that these things should be a part of a national healthcare system. So the people have often written to us, why don't I get this for free when I'm in the risk group, blah blah blah. And it's like that is difficult for us to answer. We will go to change that. But the willingness to pay over the counter kind of in the US, and at the same time they also have a culture where they like to be more self-managed, because they basically probably have a higher fright of becoming a patient somehow. So that also generates some different kind of behavioral aspects we can see in our app technology. And from the B2B side, we also find that the culture around, because it's not one unified healthcare system as it is in Denmark or most Europe, it is a much more distributed healthcare system, a lot of stakeholders, but meaning they are competing against each other. They are building businesses and they're building different kind of revenue models. They have loyalty programs, they have all kind of things. So I think the culture, innovation culture in the US is something that is an advantage for a small startup. That is also what we have realized.
Great, thanks. And what about any? These were mostly positive surprises. Any places that were underwhelming, where you had higher expectations in terms of adoption, or and the experience going there showed differently?
I think if I should start, I think what we have realized, I think we went from 15 years back to 10 years back. We realized like a social media boom and taking over that. Last 5 years, it has been maturing, and data privacy and all these things are a lot more important now for healthcare companies and so I think what people thought they could do in healthcare with respect to marketing is very different now. It's a different game, but I think that is more a general way of how the whole tech platforms is maturing for the better, definitely for the better. But it also comes with some you need to adapt to other challenges, of course. But I don't think that has been so surprising. I think actually everybody expected that, and from a Danish company, and we're used to looking into transparency and protecting each other's information and so forth. That is probably an advantage for us reaching out in the world now, because we seem to be a credible source, I would say.
Yeah, I would say, and if related to the other questions, and it's definitely the southern Europe. Things are not moving as fast as it is in the US and in Northern Europe, and yeah, the Middle East as well. Actually, that has been quite. I don't know if it's a big surprise, but it's but I've just been a bit surprised that it's not. You can have a really good business case, and you can have some really good meetings, and everybody walks away positive, and then nothing really happens. And we haven't really experienced that so many other places. Might be specific, but.
And why is that, Nikolai? Do you have any assumptions or any reflections on?
No, I think No, I think it's for the people that we've been dealing with. It's been people who has had a lot of things to do, and just being busy with other stuff. I think there's definitely a cultural part of it, but I wouldn't. I mean, that's the good thing about being global. That is that we'll just keep our focus on where the where the action happens and where things actually move forward when we do something, and when we speak to people. So. And then maybe 6 months from now, things take off at some of those markets. But yeah, I would say try to look at the positives on that.
Right. Great. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And on behalf of the team as well, and on behalf of everyone else that is going to see this, it was really informative, really great, and always a pleasure to sort of speak to both of you, or at least to listen to both of you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Valentin. It was a pleasure.